Hello and welcome, this is Benevolent History here, and I'm here to give you a commentary battle for the Grassy Flatlands. This is a 2 versus 2. I'm commanding the Carthaginians, and my ally, Lucas, a clanmate of mine, is commanding the Seleucids. We are up against a combined force of the Macedonians and the Armenians. So as you can see, my army consists of a really big infantry body of 6 units of Sacred Band infantry. I also have 6 units of gold upgraded slinger units. I also brought 5 units of round shield, very light cavalry, and 2 units of heavy cav. So obviously I'm going to use the light cav to save them and chase down the enemy's archers. My ally, Lucas, as you can see here, is using 5 units of super heavy cataphracts, heavily upgraded. As you can see there, 2 units of side chariots, 6 units of gold archers, just nothing special, just regular Hellenistic archers, and 2 units of silver shield pikemen, heavily upgraded for his infantry component. So as you can see here, our enemies just popped up, and riding on the left are 2 units of horse archers and 1 unit of Arab light cav by the Armenians. That's stereotypical, though 6 cataphracts would have been better. He also has 2 cataphracts following by walking, 3 cataphracts in the rear. That makes a total of 5 super heavy cataphracts. And he has 4 units of heavy spearmen, moderately upgraded, and interestingly enough, he has his general unit in the heavy spearmen. Normally it's best to put your general unit in the cataphract unit. He has 1 unit of peasant up front and 6 units of eastern archers, just typical archers. Now the Macedonian player has 6 units of regular archers, 1 unit of peasant out in front, 5 units of royal pikemen, moderately upgraded, now they're heavily upgraded, and 5 units of companion cav, heavily upgraded, as you can see there. The Macedonian player also deployed a light lancer unit on the very left of his army. That's my right flank, and you can see there at the very back is that 1 light lancer unit. He's going to use that to chase down our archers later on in the battle. So at this point I'm setting up a few units of round shield cav, light cav, in order to protect Lucas from these incoming horse archers, and then Arab light cav. I'm also sending a peasant unit in there for support, in that peasants and other cheap units can act as a buffer against horse archers, so the horse archer unit will not be able to bypass that peasant and hit your other valuable units from behind. You might have noticed that Lucas positioned his cataphracts and his peasant unit on the left, on his own left flank. He's basically anticipating that the Armenian player brought horse archers, which is obvious, which is a good estimate against clan players. So basically, whenever you're fighting horse archers, you need either to play aggressively with a lot of light cav and heavy cav, although that could be quite risky when your opponent has cavalry superiority over you. And you could also, by what we're doing, like a peasant, and send that peasant in to block the horse archer, act as a buffer, and maybe some skirmish cav, just prevent the horse archers from targeting more valuable units from behind. That's what we're doing right now. And at this point, the Armenian player is sending up his own cataphracts in order to protect his own horse archers, because horse archers get very tired, and once they get very tired they can be easily caught by light cav, so you have to protect these horse archers properly. And with horse archers, it's best move to send these horse archers at the back of your enemy lines. That's basically the plain goal of using horse archers. Send them back to the enemy lines and shoot the enemy from behind. So at this point the Macedonians are rushing up the infantry and the cavalry and their own archers to the right flank. I'm guessing to outposition our own troops, because you can see here the Armenian player is moving along with them. I actually find it quite interesting what they're doing. Essentially, the Macedonian player is going to send his troops to the right most, and after that the Armenian player is going to move to the right. And so, in other words, first the Macedonian player is moving to the right. He's protecting the advance of the Armenians, so the Armenians can advance more to the right. As you can see here, that the Armenians are safely moving behind the Macedonians. That's a quite good use of team tactics in order to effectively position. You know, one army moves first while the other army protects, and vice versa. And I think this is one of the quite a few blunders that the Macedonian makes, is he places all of his companion cav on the right flank, and he basically leaves his own body of troops, the infantry and the archers, quite vulnerable to our own troops. So at this point, in response to our opponents moving to the right, I'm gonna move to the left with my ally Lucas. Who's gonna stay on the right and stay in place in order to protect my own troops from while advancing. So at this point, Lucas positioned some of his cataphracts back on his own right flank, and obviously he's going to use those cataphracts in a very aggressive fashion later on against Macedon's infantry. And at this point, the Seleucid player Lucas, he's going to send up his archers to go off in a archer-to-archer battle against the Macedonians. Now, on a one-to-one skirmish fight, we have absolutely no chance because I'm using Carthage, and Carthage only has slingers, which are not as good as archers. Also, Armenia has horse archers available to him, so we're not in a very good missile department in that sense. So at this point, I'm going to pull back my slingers and try and prevent the missile fight with my opponent for as long as possible, because I want to reserve those slingers for later use. So at this point, the Macedonian player rushes up all of his infantry quite threateningly at the Seleucid's infantry, which is a quite decent move considering that the Seleucids have very few troops. But since I'm very close by, I'm able to easily support. I throw in 3 units of Sacred Band out to help reinforce my ally side. So you see here that the Macedonian player now sends his heavy cav out, but it's quite too late because the Seleucids, Lucas is able to send up his cataphracts, one to the rear of a Royal Pikeman unit to strike from behind, another from the front to strike it in the front. And obviously that Royal Pikeman cannot hold against 2 units of super heavy cataphracts. Now the Macedonian player now sends his heavy cav in. It's quite too late, but he does manage to get a few cataphract kills, and he does manage to rout a few archers. However, in response, Lucas sends up his 2 units of side chariots, but in response, Macedonian player sends up a few more units of Royal Pikemen, and obviously this very aggressive cavalry battle ensues with infantry units being targeted by cavalry on both sides. However, I think the Seleucids got the better of that engagement because of the fact they were able to rout one whole unit of Royal Pikemen and basically destroy it by half, with minimal losses for the Seleucids, of course. So at this point, the Armenian player masses all of his cataphracts on his own right flank, threatening our left flank. However, we're threatening Macedon's flank with all of our own cataphracts and cavalry. At this point, I finally send up my slingers to do battle against the Armenian slingers, and obviously I'm not going to win this battle at all because I only have slingers. Plus, I don't protect my slingers too well against cavalry strikes. At this point, I send up 4 of my 5 round shield cavalry to the flanks of our opponent to try and do strikes at soft targets later on in the battle. This is where they become very useful in disorienting my opponents and hurting the micro, because you need to be able to look at all the places at once in order to deal with all these cav blows, these light cavalry blows against your own archers. At this point, as you can see here, the Armenian player sends up his Arab light cav and attacks these 2 units of slingers, and I don't catch this quite quickly. I do send heavy cav in, but they weren't fast enough, and these 2 slinger units on my left flank were routed. However, at the same time, Lucas and I decide to make an attack against the Macedonians on our right flank, I send up 3 of my Sacred Band infantry, no, 4 of my Sacred Band infantry up to attack the Macedonian infantry, with the Seleucids supporting my attack. So you see here that I managed to catch a few Royal Pikemen, while Lucas sends up his cataphracts out to attack these Macedonians. So at this point, we managed to destroy basically all of our units on the right here, and a lot of the infantry and the cavalry on this side that we caught just rout immediately off the field. And this Royal Pikeman unit gets totally slaughtered by overwhelming numbers. However, on our opponent's right flank, they make an assault of their own, and they strike 2 of my units, 2 of my Sacred Band units there from behind. A very, very decisive hammer and anvil blow. That's 1/3 of my infantry gone down the bucket, so to speak. So at this point, the Macedonians begin to attack our central units. The Macedonian player makes a very good strike with his cavalry units against our infantry there. They kill a lot of troops on the charge. However, we do manage to kill a lot of the companion cav as well. And plus, the Macedonian player manages to send his own Royal Pikemen in a kind of outflanking maneuver and outposition our own infantry. However, we managed to position our rightmost infantry and attack the central units. With a few units of cataphracts in for support, we managed to do a lot of damage against this middle force and destroy it. At the same time, Lucas is sending up the rest of his cataphracts to do as much damage as he can against the archer units, which he doesn't do a lot of damage. So we won the right. We basically won the middle now, and all we have to do is take over the rest of our opponent's cavalry and infantry. And I send my 2 units of Sacred Band cav on the now left flank and attack these horse archer units. My Sacred Band cav don't do a lot of damage in this fight, but they do substantial damage, as you can see later on. And at this point, the Macedonian player uses up a lot of his cavalry and sends them straight into the front lines of my Sacred Band units. Not a very good move, I would say. But in the chaos of battle, stuff like this can be expected. And at this point, the Armenian cataphracts are sent in to attack these Carthaginian units. However, these Armenian cataphracts soon find themselves caught in a vice between my Sacred Band and Lucas's cataphracts, and ultimately we managed to rout all of these cataphracts. This was the decisive factor, and this is what gave us victory. So, our opponents positioned the cav in a very awkward fashion. We took advantage of that, and that basically gave us the victory. Also, the Macedonians' early efforts at attacking our troops might have dwindled down a lot of his cavalry numbers, and basically he was thus not able to support Armenia in his attack against us. So in conclusion, we saw a rush by both sides. On our side, we made a rush first at the enemy's right flank. At the same time, the enemy countered with aggression on our right flank. We were successful on our right flank, they were successful at their right flank. However, we managed to easily reinforce the middle and win the middle, and after that we pushed on to the remaining left flank of our opponents. After that, we were able to catch the enemy's cavalry in a vice and ultimately rout and destroy a lot of them. I hope you enjoyed this battle. I hope you subscribe to my YouTube page, and hope you comment, rate it, and hope you learned something out of it. Good game to our opponents. They played very well in this. It's a very, very fun game.